What's up, guys? We're back with another episode of One Punch Man. This one's kind of going to be on the fly because we have a lot to cover, so let's just get right into it. So we've got this kind of dual thing going on, with one half of the story being the martial arts tournament with Saitama and all these other guys, and then on the other side we have this giant monster attack going on. And the giant monster attack has actually apparently been quite a bit of an issue for many heroes. We have Metal Bat taken out. By the end of this episode we have Genos taken out, and we've got like A heroes who are sort of hanging out at the martial arts tournament who aren't actually helping with the monster thing. And in fact, depending on how strong these monsters actually are, the one character actually brings up, and I forget his name, he was one of the bigger, brawnier dudes. Give me a second, let me look his name up. It was Bakazan. Bakazan brings up, of course, that there are a bunch of heroes and a bunch of really strong martial artists at this tournament, so even when a monster showed up near the venue, it wasn't really a big deal. He's like, we can take care of it. There's so many people here. Which is kind of funny considering that they're all very strong in their own right, it seems, except for a handful of heroes / martial artists who are here. But the strongest hero is still here with Saitama. So while he was wrong about him being able to take them out on his own, I think Saitama would be able to fairly easily. We also get to see a bit of Suryu's abilities. We see him fighting against Lightning Max, and it didn't end well for Lightning Max. In fact, he was pretty much taken out almost immediately with a kick. So it seems like Suryu's technique is mostly leg-based with kick attacks. He hasn't thrown a fist yet, I don't believe. Plus, one of the things that I noticed with his sort of change in demeanor, he seems very casual. In fact, later in the episode we see that he literally hasn't trained in, I think he said, like a year or so. And he's just naturally talented. He wanted to seek out strength so that he could just pass through life easily. And while that is sort of what he's achieved here, he comes across as fairly callous in a way. In fact, there's a certain point where you can see the blank out in his eyes of just like, he kind of just gets dark in a way. But he hasn't shown that other than the way his eyes look. He's kind of weird. I don't know. Suryu, I feel like, is going to be one of those characters who ends up being pushed to his limit by Saitama, but actually turns out not to be any sort of challenge for Saitama. In fact, the just desserts for this character, considering his kind of lack of ambition, his lack of empathy, would be just having Saitama take him out in some comedic way, just like, trying a kick move and kicking him like across the stadium or something like that. Like, that would be kind of funny to see, but he takes out Lightning Genji like it's nothing, or Lightning Max, I believe was his name. Takes him out like he's nothing. Lightning Genji is the other one with the weird sound design from last episode. Yeah, he takes out Lightning Max like it's nothing. Whatever, it was a fight that I guess they just kind of passed up on. In fact, they passed up quite a few fights, which I'm guessing they may have even done in the manga, where it was just one character after another character after another character, just boom, 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 took them out. To pass on the bracket so that we can see where they're going next. So the one character they didn't pass up on during this little interaction was Snek, which is interesting because we get to see that his abilities are actually pretty good. Like, he clearly has some demons to overcome with his want to become stronger, because he had a nameless civilian take him out, which is funny because it was actually Saitama who took him out, because he attacked Saitama first. I mean, let's be clear, Snek attacked Saitama first, so he kind of had it coming. And actually, Lightning Max also had some demons to face, quite literally wanting to learn and improve on himself because of his defeat against the Deep Sea King from last season, which was animated better, but we'll get into that in a minute. So like in the last review, I'm going to talk about one part of the story first, and then we're going to move to the next part of the story, even though they kind of intertwine, because last time we talked mainly about the monster fights and the Metal Bat fight, and then we moved to the tournament. We're doing flip-flop. We're going to talk about the tournament, then go on to the fighting. So let's go. So the other fight that we didn't get to see, we just saw the start of it, was Sourface versus Jakuman, I think was his name, the wrestler dude. And we didn't really get to see it, and I like that because we didn't see it because it seems like they wanted to kind of give us Saitama's perspective, which was he came back in towards the end of the fight when they were kind of like both crying with, some sort of like great sportsmanship or whatever, because Saitama went to the bathroom and didn't come back out until the fight was over, which was kind of funny. Which this also just kind of shows how sort of one-track minded Saitama is. He doesn't care to watch other people's fights. He wants to experience martial arts firsthand. So if he's not out in the ring fighting, whatever. He's just, gonna go do his own thing. In fact, he went to the bathroom between fights and after his fight, so he didn't even know exactly what happened. Like when Snek was defeated by Suryu, he was still in the bathroom. Saitama was still in the bathroom. So it's like he just wants to experience it himself, which leads to a point where he missed another opportunity to experience martial arts firsthand due to, well, let's just talk about this. So Saitama versus Bakuzan. This was funny because we get this giant kind of list of things that Bakuzan's done with these other fighting tournaments he's been in, where he has just annihilated these other characters, annihilated these other contestants, competitors, whatever. And it's because his fighting skill, or his fighting style rather, is just to hurt, to damage, to nearly kill. And while he's talking to Saitama's just trying to tie his obi and he can't get it right, so he just ties it. He's like, whatever, good enough. And at a certain point, Bakuzan walks up because he realizes that Saitama's just standing there completely open. And he's just like, why? Is this your first time? It's like, yep, I'm a rookie. And Saitama, of course, asks to see martial arts firsthand. And Bakuzan explains what he's going to do, showing how overconfident he is, which I don't think it's overconfidence. I think it's just the fact that he was that powerful, because they literally had people standing by with a stretcher and medical equipment for the fight. And he explained what was going to happen. He said, I'm going to kick your legs, you'll never be able to walk again. I'm going to kick you in the side and break your arm, then punch you in the gut so your guts go flying. Then I'm going to karate chop your head. He touches Saitama's head. That was a big no-no. He's like, I'm going to karate chop your head and split your skull. And apparently that wig doesn't fit very well in Saitama's head, because Saitama one-punches him out of the ring immediately and says, don't touch my head, and has to readjust the wig. So knowing now that that wig doesn't fit very well, it pretty much just sits on top of his little cue ball there, that's probably going to be something that will be an issue probably down the road. I'm guessing probably not for a while, considering that all the fights so far have just been one punch done. So I'm thinking that what's going to end up happening is that Saitama will have to either find a way to keep it on his head, or when he actually comes across an opponent, probably Suryu, who gives him cause to dodge, gives him reasons to move more rapidly, he's going to have to hold it down on his head, considering that it just one little karate chop, not even a full chop, just a little tap on the head, shifted it on his head. So that's going to be something. But it was a massive upset for the tournament because everybody was expecting Chiranko /Saitama to get taken out immediately, and he actually completely annihilated Bakuzan, which was pretty funny to see. And of course, this gets Suryu excited. He's like, all right, that's what I'm going to do next time. I'll just one punch it. Except he seems to use kicks. In fact, he used a kick to take out Snek. But then after the Bakuzan versus Saitama fight, and we had then Snek versus Suryu, after that was pretty much the end of the tournament, and we moved on to the monsters. Or, well, I'm going to move on to the monsters because they kind of interlace those bits of the story between those fights. So let's get into the monster fights now. So the monster fights, like I said last episode, I feel like some of the monster fights from last episode and the fights with Garo were extremely poorly animated, and the sound was just weird. Everything that would take me out of one of those scenes was in those scenes. The sound was weird. Yeah. The animation just didn't look very good. And the shakiness was literally to the point of being distracting. This, on the other hand, there were still some moments that were very odd for sound design, but they were vastly improved with Genos. So let's get into what happened. So Genos has to leave the tournament because he sees that there are a bunch of monsters showing up in nearby cities and the city he's in. So he leaves, and he just starts incinerating fools. And the sound they use for that noise and the explosions, I like that sound a lot. I don't know why, but that does really fit. It's way better than what they had before. And to nitpick, there was a point where he used an electric attack against some dude who rips off faces. And that is what I would have expected an electric sound to sound like. Listen. Like that, I would have been totally fine with if they used that with Genji. but they didn't. And it sounded weird in the last episode, but it sounded better in this episode. And so, of course, Genos is taking damage and stuff like that, so we're kind of getting this idea of, like, these monsters are very strong. In fact, by the end of the episode, he encounters one that is strong enough to annihilate him, but we're not quite there yet. We also end up getting this kind of glimpse of the politics of the Hero Association. They were trying to figure out why the monsters only captured the son of the one dude that was being protected by Metal Bat, and it's because he's responsible for 7% of their budget. And if they aren't trusted, if he doesn't trust them, he's going to probably pull his funding. And so that would do a lot of damage to the Hero Association. So we have a bit of politics there, and then we get back to the fighting. I do like how they do kind of throw some of those bits in there to kind of get you an idea of the mentality of some of the people who aren't actually in the field fighting. They're concerned about budget, and they're concerned about making sure that they don't lose funding to keep this going. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be a bigger deal down the road, where it's going to have to be a toss-up between, like, the morals of saving people versus the, making sure that the Hero Association stays funded. Maybe I'm just overthinking that a bit too much. But either way, another monster Genos has to fight is a cockroach-based monster, and I love he references that he has a problem. Genos has a problem with bug-based monsters. Considering the mosquito from last season, that was pretty funny to see that reference. And because of how fast this cockroach thing was moving and how erratic his movements were, we ended up seeing Genos use a new attack, which was this glue attack. Granted, this monster did a lot of damage to Genos. It took off his arm, shredded his clothes, probably did a lot of damage just mechanically to him. So by gluing him down, Genos was able to just blast him and burn him away down to just stumps on the ground of legs. And then Genos is taken out with one hit from a giant monster that we see by the end of the episode is making his way towards the tournament, which probably means he's going to be going after Saitama or whoever's there, which I get that Genos wants to be in the top 10 for the S-Class heroes. He should have just straight up told Saitama about this so that this could be sort of resolved, but I know that would have ended the season way too quickly, would have ended the conflict way too quickly, but it's just one of those things that's kind of like he wants to become stronger, but we all know that he's not that strong yet, so when he actually does face off against a multitude of very powerful heroes, he's just going to be taken out. Speaking of facing off against a multitude of things, we have Fubuki fighting against, of course, Super S and all of Fubuki's own lackeys because they've now been taken over by whatever Super S's ability is to enslave them with love or whatever. And this is where the sound design gets weird, but I'll get to that in a minute. So, of course, Fubuki actually manages to hold her own fairly well, though because she had to use her psychic abilities to either hold off the whip or hold off her lackeys, she held off the lackeys and got whipped quite a lot by Super S, though she didn't actually fall under her spell, which was kind of neat, so she actually was very strong-willed in that regard, but that damage that she took then summoned Tatsumaki, who was just destroying fools left and right, and then finally shows up. Super S escaped, and when Fubuki asked Tatsumaki not to attack her lackeys, Tatsumaki just smashed him against the wall. It's like, I didn't attack them, And I love the fact that they used the original character design for Tatsumaki in the animation. It sort of looked chibi, but it also kind of looked crudely drawn, sort of like how One's original design for the character was. I did like that, so we had a bit of sort of a reference to the original source material. And it was fine. The animation and the story and everything in this episode seemed fine. So hopefully it continues to kind of go on that curve, but it seems at least like a lot of this is sort of up and down, up and down, up and down, depending on what the studio deems as an important moment in the anime, which I would have thought that, the fight between Metal Bat and Garo would have been an important moment in the anime, but apparently the animation studio thought otherwise. But now that we're talking about the weirdness of some of the episode, let's talk about the sound design for the whip with Super S. I don't know what they think a whip sounds like, but that is definitely not what a whip sounds like. It sounded like somebody basically went whoosh in a microphone, and then they added a synth sound and a wave over it, and it just, I don't know what they were going for with that, other than maybe a super powered whip, but it didn't work. Don't do that. Just use the whip sounds. like a whip. I mean, heck, buy a stock whip sound and modify it. Like, it didn't work. I'm sorry, it didn't work. The rest of the fight worked pretty well, and Super S got away. Tatsumaki was being a little bit of a child, and Fubuki was, well, Fubuki. Let's just put it at that and move on. Now, we do get this sort of moment where it seems like there are certain monsters going for certain heroes towards the end of the episode. In fact, we had some creepy-looking cat monster break into a prison to find Puri Puri Prisoner, which means that best character will be showing up soon. Hopefully. I do like Puri Puri Prisoner. He's a hilarious character, but we might have him showing up soon, which will be interesting to see. Yeah, I don't know why the Monster Association wants him, but they were there at the prison looking for him. And then we get the reveal of the Monster King, I think is what he's called. I'm not sure. But I thought, so before we get to the Monster King, I thought that some of the monster designs from the opening in the shadows were just monster designs for the opening, you know. I thought that they were just placeholders. Apparently the weird one-eyed thing with like the head sprouts was actually a character design. I didn't realize that, but he's apparently actually a character. Alright. And this is also the point where we see that one of the monsters is heading towards the venue where they're having the martial arts tournament. So I'm curious to see what happens there. He looks, at least his hair, looks a bit like Boros's, but I don't think there's going to be much of a character or design relationship there. But it'll be interesting to see what happens when he faces off against Saitama. But this is also where we get to see the damage done to some of these heroes. We have the demon cyborg Genos face down in the concrete. We have Metal Bat being rolled away on a stretcher, and we have Metal Knight, who is, well, his one robot that he sent down there is shredded and just hanging by chains in front of the Monster King or Demon King or whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure what he was. Let me look real quick. Monster King. Orochi. That was his name. I had to look that up because it was right at the end, and I'm still waking up because I'm trying to get this done before work. Yes, the Monster King Orochi. We finally have sort of a design reveal, but it's kind of just a still that was there. We didn't really get much of a, like, moving character design. We just got a still drawing, but he looks pretty horrific. So I'm curious to see what will happen with him, how he's going to come into play down the road, if he's going to be sort of a mass destruction monster that will eventually just be destroyed by Saitama. That's probably what's going to happen, is my guess, but I don't know. Either way, this episode was pretty solid. We had quite a bit of sort of, not really character development, but just showing some advancements in the plot with the martial arts tournament. We see that we've got some lead-ups to some pretty epic fights going on. We've got the, hopefully lead-in with Suryu, who's going to go up against Saitama. Not sure what's going to happen with the wig, considering how poorly it fits on his head, but that's probably a plot point for another episode. We have heroes getting taken out left and right by these monsters, so that's going to be something that they're going to have to really overcome, which will be a bit of a challenge down the road. And apart from that, we're really just going to have to kind of wait and see where all of these kind of plot points lead, because we either have a bunch of starting or ending fights, and the starting ones will probably be ended pretty soon, and the ending ones just lead into another, so I'm excited to see where all that leads. But like I said, this episode was pretty solid. I think they're on an upward slope again, hopefully. We'll see. If they're not, then I have no hope for this season if it just tanks again with the next episode. But we'll see. I'm holding out hope. I tend to like the positives, so let's stick with the positives for now and see what happens. Either way, guys, that's been it. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It's a little bit longer than I intended it to be, but I kind of just wanted to get all my thoughts out on the table. I didn't script this. I just watched it and blurted out what I remember and what I saw so that I could get it out before I have to go to work and hopefully get my thoughts out on video. So either way, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know if you guys have anything that you would like me to talk about, or something I didn't cover, something maybe I missed. Let me know. Otherwise, guys, I'll see you all in the next video. Make sure to like and subscribe. Check out the links down below. I have merch, all that stuff I've been pushing for a long time that you guys don't pay attention to. Whatever, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you in the next video. Make sure to be there, and have a good one.